By pulling just one 5-star character, your account can clear every single Spiral Abyss chamber. And that character is, luckily for you, currently on banner. Lauma. So what does Lauma actually do? Well, she does a lot for Nefer and DPS Bina, but I'm not here to talk about that. Outside of Nefer teams, she greatly buffs bloom reactions with her burst. So Nilu Bloom, Burgeon, and the most used one, Hyperbloom. With Nahida, xingqiu, Yelan, or official and Kuki Shinobu, you can expect around 65,000 DPS in Miliastra. But by replacing Nahida with Lauma, you can expect around 95,000 DPS. That is a huge jump. And you might say that on paper, 100,000 DPS is not a lot. Well, first of all, for a team that has only one 5-star, it's actually not bad at all. But I see where you're coming from. Not quite DPSs, even in 2-cost teams, can easily hit upwards of 130,000 DPS. But this video is about Spiral Abyss. It is much easier than Fearless Stygian Onslaught, and I promise you, it is nowhere as difficult as you think it is. If you take a look at the current Abyss, let's see how much DPS you need to clear 12-2-2. I've picked this particular chamber since it's a pure DPS tech, high HP pool chamber that has no restrictions. You have around, say, 80 to 90 seconds to deal with 3.2 million HP. Divide 3.2 million by 90, you theoretically need just 37,000 DPS bare minimum for 3 stars. Yeah, that's right. But factoring in skill issue and time taken to dodge, etc., you can honestly just add 20,000 DPS to that, I won't complain. So you only really need a 60k DPS team, without factoring in Abyss Blessings and the Floor 12 bust, to very comfortably get 3 stars, without sweating it. That might sound crazy to you, but yeah, you can clear with even lesser DPS if you're a tryhard. So the truth is, for Spiral Abyss, and honestly most even Stygian D5s, you don't at all need a 180k DPS team. In fact, this is what Abyss 12-3 looks like with a 180k DPS Caesar R1 Mawika Premium team, for reference. Bloom is a team that, even with very little investment, can output significantly higher damage than what is required to comfortably clear Abyss. 95,000 is way above 60,000. And there's 2 general advantages that I want to mention. One advantage is that it's very easy to build. You do not need to hunt for any crit stats, except for on xingqiu, which I'm assuming you already have built. All you need is triple EM on 2 characters from the same domain. The bigger pro is that it's very easy to execute. You apply your Dendro, then Hydro, then Electro. Doesn't even have to be in order, honestly. And bam, easy damage. Just use your abilities on cooldown and on-field Lauma. It has no proper rotation, and you can adapt accordingly. It requires no skill. Nothing complex like CDCF or Kazuha double swirl setups, walk cancels, or strict rotations that you have to follow exactly. And trust me, this is an insanely huge plus. QOL is extremely underrated. There was a reason why throughout all Sumeru and early Fontaine, everyone cleared the Abyss fastest with Hyperbloom, even though back then, Hu Tao with perfect jump cancels was better, or Ayaka if her burst didn't miss with Shenhe, Kazuha, and Kokomi. Well, I think it's clear that all neutral DPS check Abyss chambers are easily clearable. What makes Abyss slightly hard for some people though, is how restrictive some of the chambers are, or I guess the mechanics of some bosses that really want you to pull the on-banner character. Because of these restrictions, raw DPS generally isn't enough, unless you have a lot of Reshred of course. Even Skirt can clear the Lava Dragon statue. But believe it or not, Lauma Hyperbloom can get through every single restrictive Abyss chamber in Genshin Impact. The first method that Hoyoverse uses to make an Abyss restrictive is regional shield mechanics. So far, we've only had Nodcry's Wildunt enemies that require Ascendant Gleam, and some bosses require Lunar damage. And Nightsoul for Natlan requires very fast elemental hits, or of course Nightsoul damage. With Lauma Hyperbloom, you can clear both Nodcry's and Natlan's main mechanic show. First up, Nightsoul wards, which require many fast elemental hits. Hyperbloom gives you exactly that. See how quickly this rips apart the Tenebra's Papilla shield. xingqiu does a lot of Hydro hits, which greatly helps. And you can even add Fischl if you want for an even faster shield rip. Very nice. And for Nodcry Shill, well, Lauma is a Nodcry character, and Genshin was kind enough to give us Aino, a free Nodcry character. Pair the two together, and your Hyperblooms won't crit anymore, but you get Ascendant Gleam, which should let you easily clear these annoying Wildunt dudes that are a pain in the ass. They have a lot of HP, but by using 2 Nodcry characters in the team, they will get their HP reduced by half, and they won't be so violent anymore. Shill's getting pretty bad, but hey, it's pretty good that Lauma showed for something, right? Most non-Nodcry DPSs will find these enemies a bit difficult. Oh, also, I almost forgot, Fontaine had a Numa Osea thingy for a couple bosses. There is a free sort of not to sing quite that lets you use Numa Osea. Slap that on Shinobu and you'll find clearing something like the experimental field generator much easier. Losing the M isn't an issue since most of the HP damage is Lauma's close anyway, but those bosses are easy, you don't need to do all that. Only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed, so if you're enjoying the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It's free and you can always change your mind. Second restrictive thing is shields. Some people call them wards, but no, they're shields. There are mainly 4 elemental shields: Pyro, Hydro, Electro, and Cryo. Hyperbloom gets around all of those. Insane amount of Hydro application from xingqiu can easily shred Pyro shields. Hydro shields are ripped apart by Lauma, and maybe the Flex Slot's Dendro application. Fatui Hydro shields are shredded by Electro from Shinobu. Electro shields, like Dendro ones, are also ripped by Dendro. Cryo shields are a bit tough. Electro is decently effective against it though. But if it ever gets that bad, like maybe there's the Spirit Speaker, you could always play Burgeon. That's torture though. This is so useful against literally so many bosses. The Electro Seahorse, the Emperor of Fire, the Baptist, Coppelius, and like, I could go on forever. But it's most useful against the Abyss Lectors and Heralds, who keep showing up every other Abyss. The third restrictive mechanic Hoyo uses is throwing in monsters that are highly resistant towards one element. And this is bad because Hyperbloom is mainly Dendro damage, and there's a couple bosses that are highly resistant to it, like the Yunkasaur boss or the Radiant Moonfly. But don't worry, Lauma at talent level 10 gives 25% Dendro and Hydro Rest Shred, plus 4-piece Deepwood which shreds 30% more. So effectively now the boss only has 15% Dendro Res, and also xingqiu does pretty damn good Hydro damage, and the 4th slot option can always be a Yelan or Fischl who do a lot of non-Dendro damage. Or it could even be an Electro or Hydro on field driver, like Neuvillette. Because of this, even bosses that have a lot of HP and have Dendro Rest Shred can be cleared with this team. That is actually insane. That's how good this is at brute forcing stuff in Abyss. The next restrictive method is, well, use a certain reaction or you're cooked. So far at least, the only reaction that's this strictly enforced is Electrocharge. So much so that there's 3 Electrocharged bosses. Well, good thing that Hyperbloom is a reaction that involves both an Electro and a Hydro character. This means that the Mexican dude and the Knuckle Duckle won't be an issue at all. There's also a few older bosses that don't force it that much, but want quicken reactions like the Bird or the Dorito if you remember. There's also this one new boss, the Radiant Glacial Wolf, that requires a Pyro or Electro Swirl. But that's fine, you can just play Sucrose in that 4th slot, who lets you get that Electro Swirl off Kuki Shinobu, and you can clear easily. Lastly, I gotta mention that there's also the Dendro Crab, which heavily shows any kind of bloom reactions. The next method is requiring heavy application of one specific element. For example, the Cryo Automaton that requires Cryo, or the Lava Dragon Statue that requires a lot of Pyro. How does Hyperbloom get through this? Well, by slotting in Zhangling and C6 Lila or even Chongyun respectively. It's just that simple. Same goes for a boss that would require, say, Geo. Just use a Zhongli or even Ningguang. Isn't it absolutely insane that with one 5-star pull you can clear comfortably so many different bosses even if they're specifically made not to be cleared by it? The flex slot in the 3-man core lives up to its name. It's pretty damn flexible. You can slot in essentially anyone who doesn't mess with the reactions, from all 7 elements. Lauma, xingqiu, and kuki on its own is that powerful. The way that counters Hyperbloom is AoE. A lot of people think that Hyperbloom does well only against single target content. Yeah, that's supposed to be true on paper. Both xingqiu's and Yelan's and Fischl's abilities only work in single target. So does Hyperbloom itself. And Lauma's quills get used up very quickly in AoE, but for some reason, it absolutely freaking works. There are many clears of Lauma Hyperbloom easily breezing through that even very annoying 41 enemies Abyss, and that's the max AoE they're ever gonna put in there, and many AoE Abysses before and after that. Neither light nor heavy AoE is an issue. You know, if you've been around since 3.0, that it's a false narrative that Hyperbloom doesn't work in AoE. Hyperbloom is not a Yoimiya or a Chaska. All in all, should you pull for Lauma? My opinion, no. Skip her. Save your Primo Gems. Unless you have enough for Columbina, of course, then yeah, go for her. But why am I telling you to skip her after I just glazed her 1-cost Hyperbloom team for 10 minutes straight? Well, because power creep is real in Genshin, so is HP inflation and so is shilling. Truth is, I don't know what Snesh Nile will bring, and if Hyperbloom will even be able to keep up with the DPS required to brute force newer bosses or mechanics. So far, and has had a really good run, but it would be much wiser to save your wishes for the first 2 or 3 7.x characters, and then wish for the Tsaritsa. Recommending you to pull Lauma now would be like recommending someone to pull Zhelonin just like 2 patches before Inefa is released. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching till the end. Remember to like and subscribe. I kept having issues with my audio, so I had to re-record a lot and my editing software kept crashing, but now I've figured it out.